Hey everyone, good morning. It's great to have you all. It's a real pleasure. Feels very exciting. I mean, we're definitely experiencing interesting times. You know, cyber is always interesting. Cybersecurity in Israel is even more interesting. Add to that AI, and there you go. Probably we're on the run. With me today, we have Pavel Gurvich. Pavel, everyone is obviously aware of it, was the founder of Guardicore, who then got acquired by Akamai. He couldn't resist and went for another gig. So now he's also the founder and CEO of Tenzai, which we'll get to shortly. We've known each other. We've been friends and colleagues for, it would be fair to say, over 10 years now, from the previous chapter and ever so. So with that, it's great to have you, Pavel.
Thank you, Yair. Maybe I can introduce you, or at least my perspective of Yair. We met when he was at many years ago at Microsoft, and then worked together at EMC and Dell, and now he is running a bunch of what Michael Dell Ventures is doing in Israel, always has a unique perspective on the market, and I'm really happy to be able to chat with you today.
Great. So today we'd like to discuss an intriguing topic. I mean, cybersecurity is pretty obvious why it's needed. AI obviously is around everything, as well as cybersecurity. But apparently there's something interesting that's going on, right? I mean, everyone wants AI, everyone wants to adopt AI. But at the end of the day, there's the big question hanging, which is kind of a dilemma. What are we going to do with this AI? How are we going to make sure that it's indeed serving the right goals and not doing the opposite service by solving and addressing domains and problems that are not necessarily, that would not necessarily be needed going forward. So with that, we're going to be discussing the topic for our discussion today is the AI dilemma, the risk of winning the wrong battles in cybersecurity. And I'll share with you, kind of keen to get your thoughts, Pavel, kind of what do we have, what can we think about, how would we, when we think about AI and cybersecurity, what would be a fair analysis of where it should be used and where it's not clear whether it should be used?
It's a great question. I can maybe start with a couple of hotter takes on this, where I feel we're using it and we probably shouldn't be using it because it's a bit of a transitional phase. I feel that, like, for decades we've been building security tools that were funneling decisions to the biggest, most efficient neural networks that we had, which were people. And so you build tools that make some complicated, gather some complicated data, present it, and then human makes a decision, and then they get implemented somewhere, whether it's on the network or on the endpoint or in the cloud. And a lot of that decision making was actually super complicated. And so a lot of what the tools were doing is that they were trying to make it easier for people to make the right decisions. And I feel a lot of what we keep doing now with AI, which is an incredibly powerful tool in that sense, is to continue making a bunch of decisions for humans easier, which sort of made sense, but I'm not sure it always makes sense in the future. I think a lot of the decisions that people used to be making in cybersecurity will, in the future, not be made by people. And so, we are putting a lot of chatbots on tools. We're creating a lot of wizards. We're doing all sorts of recommendations, where really what we should be doing is burying these things, opening APIs and never showing them to anybody, because like in the future, I feel a lot of what people used to be doing will be done by machines. So we stand to gain some momentary efficiency, but I think that loses the battle by focusing people on the wrong things, and we should up-level the people, remove them from a bunch of processes they're doing today, give that entirely to the machines, and focus on that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So if we think kind of the evolution of the cybersecurity tools, a great portion of them came with the notion of helping people get on top of everything, realizing what's going on, kind of understanding what are the risks, what are the threats, what am I built for, etc. And for obvious reasons, I mean, if you look at domains like SAST in AppSec or other areas, the purpose which is worthy is kind of simplifying it for the users, for the CISO team. But I think that there's a bigger question kind of, and it's obviously still an open one, is like, will it at all be needed in the future, right? I mean, it's like it almost feels like, or if you look at domains like SOC automation, okay, which is great, but I mean, the SOC originally came, the aim of the SOC was helping the CISOs kind of realizing what's going on within the org, and it's not sure if that function would exist going forward. So aren't we solving one problem with another problem? This is kind of what we're debating about. Cool. Speaking of AI and the adoption of AI, hopefully for the right purposes, currently and mostly in the future, can you share a bit about your kind of vision, Tenzai, your current gig, kind of how does that fit in?
Sure. So look, I kind of continuing on the thing where we think on your last thesis, or where people should focus and where they shouldn't focus, and what can be done and where machines have advantages and when people have advantages. We felt that something fundamental is changing in how we're building software, and software is being built by this increasingly hybrid blend of people and machines, which I feel is also on a trajectory where more work will be eventually done by machines, and a little bit of more oversight will be done by people. But one thing that's certain is that the speed in which software is being built is changing. And so if we are trying to use old paradigms of how you test that software, how you test these applications using people, we're very likely to fail. So we're running in this bottleneck where we need to make difficult decisions between how fast we can deliver value to customers versus how secure the applications we are building are. And this is something that I believe we can now solve, and we can now solve differently, and this is where Tenzai comes along. And what we're basically building is the most sophisticated skill set that human people in cybersecurity used to have, which is offensive hacking capabilities, which we deploy towards the good, and we deploy towards testing the security of applications and finding vulnerabilities in software, whether it's in runtime, whether it's in source code, comparing it to documentations, comparing it to what we know about the organizations from previous context we have. But I feel most importantly, and this is kind of the litmus test for whether certain things should be done with AI or not, we can do it consistently at a level that human beings could not deliver in the past. So our current benchmarks show that we're somewhere around second percentile of the world in terms of how efficient the AI-based pen testing is. Obviously scalable, you can run it all day long, you can run it at night, etc. So this is something you just couldn't do before, and we're very happy to be able to do it.
Amazing. We're excited to see how it's going to come through. Last question, we don't have much time, but still, kind of, if we're thinking about CISOs who are investing their resources and founders at solving, some of them are dealing with a problem, the others are trying to solve a problem. What would be kind of the litmus paper, or kind of how can we make sure that it's not kind of an AI lipstick and it's a real innovation-proof approach for kind of in the cybersecurity space, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think there's probably like two questions you can ask. One is, could you do that before? Like the whole thing, was it even possible?
Yeah.
3 years ago, 2 years ago? And then, if not, then whether it's worth doing, which is exactly what you discussed in the past. And I think another one, maybe like non-orthodox, is I view some of these AI companies as platform companies, like OpenAI and Anthropic, and to me, it's always a little bit of like, if this thing you are now buying, like, or considering to buy, is that something you could imagine that would be delivered by these platform companies? not necessarily developed, maybe. But if it comes from there, right now it gives you a sense of, okay, that does belong in this AI futuristic world, and that maybe it doesn't. So
yeah, I agree with you. That's kind of a good indication of being part of the real wave, at least as we know it today. I think another approach was thinking in a stress test mode, like if you imagine the company of the future, and it's not going to happen over a year or two, but over time, more and more portions of the company would get automated and backed and supported and driven eventually by AI agents, etc. If we imagine an organization that's fully driven by agents and automation, then we need to ask a question, what kind of a security would be kind of bulletproof to that mindset and would survive kind of the new situation. I also think that kind of, one of the bigger issues that today is not being addressed yet, but it's going to be an issue. Over time, there is a risk that organization, and namely CISO, would lose control of what's going on. No, I'm not talking about the threat vector. I'm talking about actually the defense vector. And I think that there would be need, surprisingly enough, for coming up with innovative approaches and technologies for regaining control, enabling the CISO to regain control. What do you do now if the marketing, finance, HR, cyber, of course, engineering, all this tech is being fully automated and almost fully autonomous? How do you gain control in those situations if something goes wrong? And something would go wrong. I mean, it's obvious. So that's something that definitely we should acknowledge. What do you think, Pavel, would be kind of, what is kind of a must? Let me rephrase the question. What are the things that we don't know yet?
Donald Rumsfeld question. The unknown unknowns. I feel the whole interface between people, decision makers, and right now mostly doers, which is where AI lives, is something we haven't figured out yet. So where is the line drawn, and how what sort of information and instructions are passed in that sense? They're not known. They're in flux. We're building that. Some folks are going too far. Some are staying behind. And a couple of years from now, that is probably something we'll know.
We can agree that it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Amazing. Thank you. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you, everyone.